Just hours before the April 7th deadline, the defense made their final move in the Illinois Appellate Court to get Quadajah Johnson out of jail on pretrial release. And they're accusing the prosecution of twisting evidence, ignoring video proof, and getting the law completely wrong. When people do the most, I do the analysis. Let's go. Attorney Ari Williams just filed her reply memorandum, meaning this is it. There will be no more arguments and no more filings. After this move, the 3 appellate judges will decide whether Quadajah Johnson stays locked up or walks out of Cook County Jail until her trial begins. After reading this entire filing, I see that the defense is making 4 major arguments that could change everything. Now hold on and just hear me out. In their first argument, the defense is doubling down on one thing. They're saying this was self-defense. Now, the prosecution tried to downplay that, essentially saying it doesn't matter. Not at this stage. But the defense fired back quick and said, we're not arguing technicalities here. We're explaining what actually happened. There is a 911 caller who said the victim, Romika Blackman, was the aggressor. They're saying there are witness accounts that say Quadajah Johnson was attacked first. That there were prior threats on Quadajah's life. You know, those threatening phone calls made to Quadajah's grandmother, allegedly. And then they said there is physical evidence that shows a struggle between Quadajah and Romika. Translation: they're reframing this entire case from a calculated killing to a split-second survival decision. Now, their second argument, and this is where it gets serious, is that the state got the facts wrong. The defense is accusing the prosecution of not even reviewing all of the evidence. They're claiming that their video evidence was submitted and that it was submitted on time, but that the state either ignored it or failed to review it. The defense believes that the prosecution relied only on written summaries, you know, those proffers, but they refused to consider the video evidence that was submitted. And there is a big moment in the defense statement, and that's when they claim that the prosecution even misidentified a 911 caller. And in that call, the prosecution missed the fact that an independent witness described the victim as the aggressor. Translation: the defense is telling the court you were given a distorted version of the truth, not the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Now let's talk about the defense's third argument, which is actually why Quadajah Johnson is being held in the first place. The state of Illinois says that she's dangerous and a threat to the community. Well, the defense says that claim is not supported. And the facts they highlight is this. Quadajah Johnson was free for 87 whole days after she shot and killed Romika Blackman. And during those 87 days, she didn't attempt to run or flee the country. They said that she didn't kill anybody else while she was free either, nor did she commit any additional crimes. And even though Quadajah Johnson was free to party or move about the country as she pleased, she chose to cooperate with police. She didn't even resist being arrested when police showed up at her house to cart her off to jail on December 3rd of last year. Now, I can't speak for Quadajah Johnson, but during her 87 days of freedom, her supporters were saying the case would be dropped. That the reason she was free was because of self-defense. And those same supporters used that time to engage in a smear campaign against the victim, Romika Blackman, sharing multiple videos of Romika being an angry and aggressive crash out. Now, mind you, none of those outbursts were against Quadajah Johnson. Instead, they were verbal altercations between Romika and her baby daddy, Carlos Smith, with whom she was engaged in a toxic relationship. Now let's continue. The defense also wants to point out what they believe to be mitigating factors that should influence the release of their client. The defense said Quadajah Johnson has no violent criminal history, aside from a single charge of a retail theft, but that's a misdemeanor and it took place over a decade ago. On September 8th of 2025, when their client shot and killed Romika Blackman with 2 kill shots, one in the leg, her femur at that, and another one in the face. The defense wants the appellate judges to know that Quadajah legally owned her firearm, that she had a firearm owner's ID, and that Quadajah Johnson completed the required training to obtain a conceal and carry license in the state of Illinois. The defense said that Quadajah Johnson was pregnant on September 8th, even though she had a 6-month-old child on that day, and she was again pregnant on December 3rd when she got arrested. Now, let's just put a pin right there, because I'm calling cap on that. If Quadajah was 7 weeks pregnant on December 3rd, there's no way she was pregnant on September 8th, unless, and one could argue, that she had either miscarried or aborted that child, then got pregnant again a few weeks later. Hey, it happens. And remember, in a court of law, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And that information is protected by HIPAA laws. But I digress. The last thing the defense pointed out is that Quadajah was employed and had been accepted into dental school. Now, I personally don't recall any of those details being shared before September 8th, but hey. Translation. The defense is painting a completely different picture. They want the appellate to know that their client is not a danger. Instead, she's a stable and law-abiding citizen. Let's move on to their fourth argument, shall we? The state argued that there are no conditions that would make release safe. The defense is firing back with, that's just flat out wrong. Their point is, courts release people in serious murder cases all the time. They just do it with conditions. That's all. The defense is arguing that Quadajah's background supports supervision, not detention. Translation, they're saying that even if you're concerned, jail is not the only option here. But there's an underlying strategy here that really stands out. The defense isn't just defending Quadajah Johnson, they're attacking the credibility of the prosecution. And they're accusing the prosecution of using incorrect legal citation, relying on weak witness testimonies, and that the evidence presented in the case is being mischaracterized. Translation, they're trying to shake the court's confidence in the state's entire case. And now this takes us to the final moment. It's all in the hands of the Illinois Appellate Court to decide Quadajah Johnson's fate as to whether she remains in jail at 26 in California until trial, or whether she'll be released with an ankle monitor as she awaits trial. But there will be no more arguments and no more filings. Just a decision that could come at any time between now and April 20th, which is the deadline set for the appellate court's final decision. Here's the reality. The defense made a much stronger and more detailed argument in this reply, especially on self-defense and mischaracterized evidence. But appellate courts don't ask, would we decide differently? They ask, did the trial court clearly get it all wrong? And because of that high standard, the most likely outcome is that the court will affirm the detention, meaning Quadajah Johnson will not be released during this pretrial phase. She will remain behind bars until trial. But, there is a real possibility of something else that could happen in between time. And we should watch for this because the court could send it back for reconsideration, or they could issue guidance that weakens the state's position. And if it's remanded for reconsideration, the appellate court is basically saying this: trial court, take another look. You may have gotten this wrong or missed something important. They don't fully decide the outcome themselves. They send it back to the same trial judge, Judge Michael Clancy, with instructions. And they could do this especially if they believed that key evidence wasn't properly considered. So now the million-dollar question is this. Did the state prove that Quadajah Johnson belongs behind bars? Or did the defense just expose reasonable doubt even before trial begins? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who can use this message. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Then leave me a comment down below letting me know your thoughts. Do you believe the defense just upstaged the prosecution with their reply? Or do you think Quadajah Johnson is never getting out of jail? Meet me in the comments. We can continue the conversation there.